Since Superman's back and better than ever, DC has the best excuse to bring in one of the most amazing and underrated character in this new world, and his name is Steel. Hey there, this is your Matt Doodle with Too Much Time on His Hands. Doodle here with another video, and today I like to talk about Steel and how James Gunn could easily put him in this new DC cinematic universe and make him a household name. Now, you may be asking why I specifically want Steel as a mainstream character. Well, first of all, I just think he's a really cool character with such a cool armor that is very underrated and needs more love. Now, the second reason is actually because of the type of person that Steel is and how he became a hero that I want to talk about. But for those of you who do not know who Steel is, Steel was created during the time when Superman died in the Death of Superman comics, and how so many different people that vaguely looked and had abilities like Superman were claiming they were him.
By all means, go to town, Superboy.
It's Superman.
I'm Superman.
There is only one Superman.
But ironically, the one that felt the most like Superman was just a regular guy with a suit of armor that honestly felt the most like Superman. That even in the comics, Lois Lane said that Steel embodies Superman's soul, which I just think is just so cool. Now, I know some of you are going to say, doesn't Superman have to die for Steel to exist? Well, not necessarily. You can still have Steel exist while Superman's also alive. And the reason I say this is because I do not want to see Steel all the way into the future. I really want to see him more nowadays in reality. And the reason I know it's going to be done is because they did that in the Superman animated series. And in the My Adventures of Superman show. But those are their own things, and I want to talk about how I'd like to introduce him in this world. The reason I say this is because there is a lot of things in Steel's original origin that has too much fluff that I don't think necessarily need it. Like, in the original comics, he was a guy who was working with people that wanted to use his tech to create weapons and then sell them to the highest bidder. And so he faked his death and then moved to Metropolis and then was a construction worker and then saved someone and then Superman saved him. It just seems way too complicated. And also it seems a little too much like Iron Man's story in the beginning, which I do not want to avoid. The way I like to see it is a little more simple, to be honest. All I want to see is John being inspired by Superman. And the way I do this is just, honestly, very mundane. No action-packed, nothing like that. The way I'd see it is John just going to work or something like that, and he sees someone almost getting hit by a car, so he pushes them, but because of that, he almost gets hit. So Superman goes and, saves him. And one thing I'd like to point out, because Steel is a Superman fan, he loves Superman, and that with the adrenaline, John is so happy and saying, "Oh my God, you saved me! How can I pay this gratitude?" And this is something I think was in the comics, and I'd really like to see in this form for Steel, is just live a life worth saving, which I think is just so good and cool, and I think embodies Superman, and then it could encourage Steel. Because, yes, Superman has all these abilities, but I think one of Superman's main abilities that, work so well and is much better is, his voice, the fact that he talks to you down or he talks you up, things like that. He helps without even have to put a finger on you, if that makes sense, even though this one he technically saves him. But I like the idea that puts it in John's head that, I can actually do more, that all I need to do is, find a way to help. And you could say that he was an engineer, but he's also working construction because that's how he gets the giant hammer in a lot of cases. But I'd also like the hammer to be a different reason, which I will get to in a little bit. Though I would like to see it in this type of movie that you could have is John just constructing a basic suit. Nothing cool, nothing, just a silver suit. That's it, with the hammer. Now, the reason why I say that is because in a lot of cases, they've tried so hard to make Steel suit without the red cape or the symbol and just keep him with the hammer. Which, yes, the hammer is just super cool, but I feel like not having anything else just feels naked. They tried to do that in the comics after Superman came back from the dead. They tried to do that in the Superman animated series, and they tried to do that in the terrible Shaq movie that came out in the 90s. And I just don't think it looks good at all, to be honest. Oh, and before I forget, they did try to do that in the My Adventures of Superman show with John Henry wearing a giant, bulky armor with no mask, no cape, but they did kind of have a Superman-esque symbol, but still looked really weird. And even though I like the show Superman and Lois, I do not like the design that they gave Steel in the show. The suit looks so generic. I feel like this giant metal S and the cape just, makes it Steel. But I like to do it where, he continuously makes a suit every time he goes out to fight crime, which is also something I'd really like to see, that Steel is technically a street-level hero, if that makes sense. Yes, he has all these gadgets, which is super cool, but he's not as strong as Superman, and I don't think we need to make him that. And you may be asking, how can someone who is associated with Superman like that be a street level character. Well, first of all, do we say that about Batman when he goes and is just fighting crime in his city and then he fights giant monsters with the Justice League, or Spider-Man fighting regular crime in New York and then going with the Avengers to, a new world or something like that? We don't worry about that, so we don't have to worry about Steel. And personally, I would like it if we got to see the damage of the suit every time, he tried to, fix it. It still look well, it still look really messy to show that, one, he's not rich, doesn't have so much resources, which is something I would really like to show to differentiate himself more than Tony Stark with an iron suit. And if you want to have Steel, get more strong, just give him Kryptonian tech, but that's for later. The way I like to see this is that throughout the movie of Steel, his suit gets destroyed so often because, yes, he's still learning to be a hero. He has secret identity as well, so he has his face hidden as well. But I like the idea that, his suit gets damaged so badly that it genuinely makes him want to almost give up. But I like to think of the idea that the way for him to, pick himself up, become that hero that people dub him now as Steel, that he puts on the giant Superman S. Because let's say he looks at a poster or a shirt that he has Superman, because again, he's a fan. Oh, and yeah, I know that the new Superman symbol looks different from its normal one in the comics, but I still think it would look so good in a metallic form for Steel. And say he welds a Superman S on his suit and he puts on a cape because he, thinks that looks cooler, and just comes out with a hammer, which I'd actually like to talk about that hammer real quick. I love that, John Irons is inspired by Superman, but I'd also like the idea that he's inspired by the folktale that he gets his name from, John Henry Irons, to be exact. And that, yeah, a lot of cases they made the hammer just a tool that he started using because, he was in construction. But I like the idea that, his name and the folktale go hand in hand, because John Henry, the folktale, was, for the people. He was for everyone, and kind of like what the original 1930s version of Superman was, and how Steel can technically be that for everyone else. Now, you may be saying, wouldn't this be too much for a character like this? And no, not necessarily. You can also not have to show it. You don't even have to always say it. You don't have to just do pure exposition. You can just show the actions of it all. Say that, of course, John Henry and then the folktale are, one of the same, or him with his parents talk about that, something like that, and that he incorporates that hammer in the suit, and he just gets the entire Steel armor, how his entire personality is Steel. It's inspired by Superman, but it's also inspired by the folktale of John Henry, an everyman hero, which is also something I'd really like Steel to be. Like I said, he's a street level hero that he's also for the people. He doesn't just, fight crime, which I would like to see, but I'd also like to see him, save people, do the things that Superman did for him. Just be that hero. And the thing is, I like to see is that he never gave himself the name Steel. It was just given to him because, he's wearing an armored suit and, flying around. And especially when he had the S, he just went with it and took the Superman S and it's for Steel now. And how the S now means more of hope than just the Superman logo, which I think would just be so nice as well. And that's what I like about someone like Steel, that he was just inspired to be a hero. He didn't have to have something traumatic in his life to turn him into that hero. He had actually had something hopeful to turn him into someone better. And how Superman's, lesson, or, just being a good hero inspired someone else to do good things, if that makes sense. And I know people are going to be like, he has a suit of armor, that already makes him too much like Iron Man. Well, that's kind of why I kind of changed the kind of backstory of it, because you don't need all that fluff for Steel to be that hero, and that's why I wanted to do it this specific way. You don't need to have the fluff, you don't need to have the, faking his death or whatever. Just make it a guy deciding to be a superhero himself. And then if you want, you can introduce him with Superman more often, and you can make him an important part of Superman's life. Like, let's say Superman has, gets kryptonite on him, or he can't go anywhere because, it affects him. Well, Steel's still human. He doesn't have any actual superpowers. He can still help and be there for Superman, if that makes sense. Because again, he's a huge fan, which I like to see. He's a big guy. Make him geek out. That would be hilarious to watch. And I know in the comics, Steel has a niece that later on takes up his mantle. But I would really like that to happen later on. I still want John to have his limelight because it makes more sense with his name and, his occupation and, what he's been through. So I would like his niece to become Steel later on, as a mantle, but let's hold off on that for a second. So that's the way I like to see Steel done in this new DC cinematic universe. What do you think about this? Do you think it takes away from him by changing the origin? Do you like the way I did it? Do you have your own way of making Steel? Or do you think he's just not a big enough character to be put in his own film? Please let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you're still here by the end of this video, I want to thank everyone, because this video took me so long to put together, because I've been thinking on how they would make this a thing without just repeating the Iron Man origin, which was, a thing in his original origin. And the fact that I didn't want to make it too short, where it could have just been a short, because it was still longer than one, if that makes sense. I've been having so much back and forth with it, and I know that I always tend to go back and I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool, I have to put it in. So thank you for watching the entire thing. I appreciate so much, and thank you for everyone who wanted me to make this video, because it encourages me to keep making more videos like this, and I just want to say thank you. So if you like this video, please do all the things you do on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can actually get notified when these videos come out. And yeah, there's nothing else. I hope everyone stays nerdy. And this has been Dudamite, and I hope to see everyone in the next video.